Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about the difference between day game and night game. A lot of guys are either good at one or the other, and it's a shame because by understanding the differences between them you can be very good at both. So I'm going to run through real quick. We're going to jump from the daytime to the nighttime, give you some examples so that by the end of it you know how to behave, how to do things in the daytime versus how to do them in the nighttime. With the very first thing, indicators of interest. In the daytime, you're not going to get very many. You're going to be walking down the road, you'll try and make eye contact with girls, and in general, you won't get too many IOIs back. Something you can try is to be on the phone, be listening to music, be walking with a friend, especially a girl, be eating something, eating an apple, eating something like that, an ice cream, drinking from a big bottle. Actually, these things get you more attention and will get you more IOIs in the daytime. In most cases in the day, you get the IOI as you're passing someone, you can let them pass and then you can approach like we show you in the videos or like you'll see in day game domination. So that's IOIs in the daytime. In the nighttime, you will get more indicators of interest and more opportunity to create them. As you're walking around, people will pay more attention. When you come in a place, girls might look to see who's there. As you're walking around the venue, across the bar, you can have lots of opportunities where you can make eye contact before you approach. So that is a big difference from in the daytime. In fact, if you master IOIs, you can make 70 or 80% of your approaches warm rather than cold, meaning that you've already exchanged some eye contact and some non-verbal communications before you actually come up and approach. Second thing is when it comes to approaching and physical space. So in the daytime, you're probably looking at having a distance of about this much when you start an interaction. You're further than arm's length apart. If you're too close, it's quite strange for the girl in the daytime. So yeah, exactly. So keeping in mind physical space, and normally you would actually be face to face, you wouldn't be side on. So in the daytime, that's how it goes when it comes to physical space and approaching. When it comes to approaching, you're going to be able to do it in a few different ways in the nighttime. If she's at the bar, you can kind of come up next to her. You can, of course, approach directly. A lot of the traditional theory is that you should be a little bit side on instead of kind of facing direct towards her. And I agree with that. But in general, you don't have to have so much impact in your approach. You can be a little bit smoother and kind of sneak in there. And of course, you can be a lot more non-verbal, setting things up with your body language and non-verbal communications as you actually walk towards her or before you approach her. In the nighttime, the physical space stuff is very different. It's quite comfortable for us to be actually touching close side by side. Even with a complete stranger, this is completely normal. If you're both standing at the bar, if you are talking to each other, you would be much closer, close enough to touch. You might be in a loud place, you're leaning in, blah, 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 talking in her ear like this. And in general, you're able to be a lot closer even before it's a romantic situation. So pretty much immediately, you're going to be able to get a lot closer. The third big difference is when it comes to touching or kino escalation. In the daytime, it's very common that I wouldn't actually touch a girl at all. I don't think, I would do too many touches, even on the arm. There might be some moment where, I pick something out about her clothes or her jewelry. But in general, I wouldn't actually try and do that. It's not so important in the daytime to escalate physically. It's more important that she's very comfortable. And unless it's some point where maybe you decide to go somewhere together and you walk her and you kind of put your hands on her back to lead her across the road or to open a door and to take her somewhere, in most cases you wouldn't have much physical contact in the daytime at all. When it comes to touching, you're going to see a lot more if done correctly. You might open and put the hand on the arm as you're opening her. You can use the front and the back of the hand to touch all the way along the side of the body. You might touch the small of her back. You might take her around the shoulder and talk about something in the venue. So in general, you've got a lot more touching. You're able to get a lot closer. Next big difference is when it comes to verbal versus non-verbal game. It's possible that this is maybe the biggest difference in what you should do, but in the daytime it's going to be a lot more centered on your verbal communication. We've already said that you haven't got much touching going on. but also you can't really have those moments where you're kind of just looking, or you're dancing, or you've got, you know, something where you've got something from the environment, you're not very close. So it is very verbally dependent. There's a lot of emphasis on the conversation. There can't be any lulls in the conversation, because then she could walk away. So if your verbal game is not up to scratch, it's very good to kind of throw you in there in the daytime, in the deep end, to make sure you've got what it takes. Conversations mustn't run dry, and the only thing that is non-verbal that really comes into it is having good eye contact. The verbal non-verbal balance is of course very different in the nighttime. There's a lot more non-verbal stuff. It's a lot more about the eye contact, it's about the touching. You can dance, you can have a lot of time when there is no verbal communication, because actually in a noisy place you want to communicate a lot through your moods. You know, if you're smiling, if you're enjoying the music, if you're moving, if you're dancing, if you're doing something, then you won't need to focus too much on the conversation. In general, in the beginning it will be not so verbal, and then if you do want to talk, you might go to a more quiet place, the smoking area, or to sit somewhere to carry on a conversation. In the daytime, it is possible to have some subtle flirting, but girls, when they're, you know, in their lunch break from work and things like that, they're not drunk, you know, they're not in a bar, they're not usually dressed as sexy as Olia is today, so they're not in that kind of mood, you know, they're not in a sexual state. They're happy to be comfortable with someone and to spend some time, but to take the conversation to kind of sexual things, to be looking at her lips, to be, oh, you know, giving her sexual compliments and things, in the daytime is really not the place for it. In the nighttime, obviously, you can ramp things up a lot more. You're going to be standing close, so you're going to have more contact, you're going to have closer eye contact, and so things are going to be a lot more intimate than in the daytime. Also, the focus as things continue, with drinks involved, with her dressing more sexily, you're going to have more opportunity to take things down that road, whereas in the daytime it's really not appropriate in most cases. Final point is when it comes to closing. In the daytime, the key is that you need to have a good conversation, usually 5 to 10 minutes. You need to talk about things that you both like to do, find some common points, find some dates, some things that you can do together in the future, find out if possible her schedule, and in most cases you're just going for a solid number and setting up a date for that time. Or you're going for what we call the instant date, where I say something like, listen, I've got like 10 minutes, why don't we go for a coffee? There's a coffee place over there, and we go quickly for a coffee. So in the daytime, that's what closing would look like, and the key thing is to make it as solid as possible. If you're getting flaky numbers, then I suggest you go for those instant dates. If you're already getting good numbers, then you know what a solid number is, and you can go for numbers. Finally, when it comes to closing, of course you can think about numbers, but in most of the cases you're going to want to escalate physically or take her somewhere. So you're going to go from escalating the touches to maybe kissing, dancing on the dance floor. You might invite her to eat something, you might invite her to an after party, and basically the goal would be to get her out of the place. In a lot of cases, the number close in the nighttime is only for situations where you think she wouldn't go with you or carry on things because she's with her friends, she's tired, she has to wake up early, she's got a flight in the morning, or something along those lines. So forget about the numbers in most cases when it comes to the nighttime. So guys, those are the key differences between night and day game. If you had a weakness before, go out, make those changes, and I'm sure it will really help. Around this video, you're going to see a link to click and you'll be able to check out Day Game Domination. It's got infield footage. I'm very proud of it. It's going to show you everything you need live and in action, real girls in real situations, how it's all done. So check it out, click the link, and again, thanks for watching the video, and I'll be in touch soon.